His vision for today's meeting all but stomped dead. He'd arrived early to be the first one in the room. He'd read it was a power move, and yet here she was, extending her hand. "Thom," she stood when he entered. "They're running a few minutes behind." She was rumpled. He hadn't expected that. Of the few things Thom appreciated in Irma, it was her easy chic, a style that never failed to impress. Well-ironed jeans, crisp white shirt, flawless foundation, and knockout lips. Today they were an unfortunate shade of coral. "Here." He plucked a tissue from a box on the side table. "Lipstick. On your tooth." She accepted it and turned discreetly to fix herself. There was a stain on her back pocket, the flowering blue swell of ink that would never come out, and before realizing, he said, "I'll walk behind you when we leave, so no one can see that spot on your slacks." It was a kindness she perhaps did not deserve, and yet he couldn't help himself. Irma smiled gratefully. "Before they come," she began to say, but hadn't finished before James and Trevor Vanderveer, father and son, walked through the door and started the handshaking and back-patting portion of the afternoon. Trevor, the younger, pulled out chairs for Thom and Irma, as if they were elderly, joints too swollen with arthritis to do it themselves. Or, in Thom's case, enfeebled by a set of useless-looking shoulders. "Will your daughters be joining you, Irma?" Trevor asked. "Laney's flight was delayed." She nodded toward the glass wall behind him. "But here's Bree now." Bree Bedford exited the elevator, armpits sweating through her shirt, the voice in her head hyperventilating about what a stupid mistake she'd made by not having worn a blazer, as usual, failing to avoid even one of the many disasters that, together, comprised her average day. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting." The clock on the wall above the crystal water pitcher that looked too fancy to touch read 2:58 p.m., 2 minutes early. But the energy in the room said she was embarrassingly late. She slipped silently into a chair next to her mother and pulled her planner from her purse for notes. The clasp snapped loudly, echoing against the room's hard surfaces. "Sorry. Again." She and Trevor Vanderveer had graduated high school together, and 20 years on, he looked just as much the tailored son of privilege as he always had, wearing a suit that probably cost more than she was comfortable thinking about. His father, whose first name she kicked herself for not being able to remember, remained the only one standing. She sensed he spent too much time in the sun, though his cheeks and forehead were shiny and taut, as if fresh from the dermatologist. The wrinkles on his hands betrayed his age, all but undoing the medical illusion up top. "We waiting for more?" he barked. "Just Laney," Irma, Bree, and Thom said in unison. Irma added, "She texted me a few minutes ago. She's on her way from the airport." It had been upon learning that Laney was flying in from California that Bree began to feel anxious about what she might learn at this meeting. Their mother had only said, "With Elliot gone, I've enlisted an outside firm to help me make some decisions about the Rainbow." Bree was more or less the bookshop's assistant manager. It made sense for her to attend. Her sister Laney, though, never flew in for store matters. In fact, she almost never flew in for personal matters either. Their mom's best friend and business partner, Elliot, had died several months ago, and Laney hadn't flown in for his funeral. She hadn't flown in when their mom's late-in-life boyfriend, Nestor, passed away unexpectedly last year. And she hadn't spent a Christmas or Thanksgiving in Minneapolis for as long as Bree could remember. Laney didn't come home for things, and yet she was coming home for this. The receptionist opened the door a third time. "Laney Hartwell," he announced. Before stepping through, Laney pulled her baseball cap low and made a wish to whatever god, genie, or fairy watching over her that old man Vanderveer would keep on talking. The sooner this was over, the better. She was tired. She didn't need to be here. It was too big of an ask. "What are you doing over there?" Mr. Vanderveer saw her choose a seat in the corner and, grossly offended, slapped his notes on the table with a violent outsized thwack. She rubbed at the back of her neck, her hair at full attention. "I'm trying not to interrupt." "Laney," her mother tapped the chair beside Bree. "There's plenty of room right here." "It's a big table," Old Man Vanderveer barked, a man showing off his territory. Big office, big voice, big dude jewel.